Hey, welcome back to Crimes and Closets. This is Beth in my closet in North Carolina.
And this is Christy in my closet in St. Louis.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. How are you doing?
Good. I'm okay.
Yeah. You're surviving?
I am because I went with my two friends to a concert last night.
Mm-hmm.
My friend's brother is in a band and they came to Raleigh. And so we went out and I did not go to bed till after midnight.
Whoa.
And my alarm went off at 5:45. And so I am really realizing my age today.
Yeah. I bet.
It's in my bones. It's in my face. It's like brain fog, all of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I am tired. And I just told you earlier, I really wanted to come home and go back to take the kids to school and just sleep for another hour or two. But here we are.
We are.
No time for that.
We'll perk you right up, Beth. Don't worry.
Oh, good. Nothing like a murder. What's going on with you? What's new?
Not a whole lot. Did
you been paying attention to Britney?
What?
Britney Spears. You know I like to talk about Britney Spears.
No.
She got a stripper pole. Wow. You know how she posts on Instagram the pictures of her dancing?
Mm-hmm.
She got a stripper pole.
Oh, fantastic. I don't follow her. I just see what people will post about it.
You got to watch it. It's not good.
Mm-hmm.
She's doing too much.
Mm-hmm. Well, she's always usually doing too much.
Yeah. I also heard that she might be getting divorced. Did I dream that? Anyway.
I don't know. I didn't even know she was married. See, this is how much I follow things. I don't know this kind of stuff. But since you mentioned Britney, and it made me think conservatorship, have you heard the whole Michael Oher? Oher? How do you say your name? The Blindside guy?
Or. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, Blindside guy. Those people didn't actually adopt him, and that he actually was tricked into signing conservatorship.
Yeah, well, that's what he's saying, and he's suing them. And then he also was saying that the movie that he got totally cut out of everything and never profited from it or anything like that. But Nessa, have you listened to them though? Because they're saying that they didn't profit off of it either. I think it said they each got $14,000 or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know. I've seen bits and pieces. One was yesterday, somebody the reporter who broke the story was on, I don't know what news channel. And I was at lunch with the boys and I was reading the subtitles or the closed caption as I was going across. And he was saying how they did get money.
Yeah.
But that they say they split it fairly between everyone and whatever. And basically his stance was, this is all for the courts to decide. Thankfully we have a court system. And so everyone has to prove their side of the case and the truth will come out and we'll see. But I don't know. It would just be super sad if that whole thing that was such a uplifting story is what he says it is. That would be super sad.
That he was taken advantage of.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the whole adopting thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know why, but when they said that he wasn't really actually adopted, I was I knew that. I felt like. So I feel like that's not new news that he wasn't actually adopted. And they were never really saying that they had adopted him. I mean, they were he's our adoptive son, whatever. But they weren't saying they actually legally adopted him. I don't think they ever claimed that.
Oh, I think they did.
Did they? I know in the movie they do. But that's a movie. Not everything in that movie is 100% fact.
Right.
It's a movie. It's a Hollywood version of his life.
Right.
So okay, maybe they said in the movie that he was legally adopted, but I don't know that the real life people say that.
Right.
So if that's the case, is he mad that they portrayed him as that in the movie, as being adopted when he wasn't?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't really get it. And why now? That movie is old news.
Well, I understand, but I see, again, I haven't dug deep into it. I just like have been seeing headlines and random things, and apparently like something came out recently that he realized that this is what had happened.
Oh, I see.
Like he found out it was a conservatorship.
Yeah.
Recently.
I mean, I could see them taking advantage.
Right.
Of him because he was so vulnerable.
Right.
And so talented.
Right. Oh, yeah. 100%. Yeah. And now he's retired. Didn't he retire in like 2016?
Yes. Right.
Yeah. Okay. So according to this, he discovered in February that legally he was not actually part of the Toohey family.
Oh, so he thought he was legally adopted.
According to this like NPR thing.
Huh.
So I don't know if he just was under the impression that that's what happened because he was so young and vulnerable and whatever, and whether they actually claimed. I don't know. Because it's not saying, it says like that family promoted adoption for years. Anyway, it's like, oh, and now it says the Toohey family will end the 19-year conservatorship. Their attorneys are saying.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess they better back out now.
Yeah.
Back away slow. And I also saw that they're saying that Sandra Bullock, who played the mom, needs to give back her Golden Globe.
No, that's
I was
stupid.
like, guys, it's not Sandra's fault. Also, Sandra's going through it. She just lost her husband. Like, let her keep her award.
I don't even know that. But that has nothing to do with whether the story was actually true. That has something to do with her acting abilities.
Exactly. I know. Poor whatever. Sandy.
Like, that could have been a whole fake story, and she would have won. You know, like, I know it got attention because it was supposed to be this real story.
Right.
But anyway, like, no, I don't like that's false. They shouldn't.
Right. Yeah. Well, there you go. Anyway, there's what's happening in the news.
Yep.
In
there you go.
Hollywood news or whatever.
Yes.
Pop culture.
Your taste of non-murder news, and
yes.
I guess now we have to go into murder.
I was going to say, if we want to swing that pendulum, how about we talk about some murder?
Okay.
All right. Here's my case. So for today's case, we are actually heading back to the state of Vermont.
Oh my gosh.
And we're going to Burlington.
What is the deal with Burlington?
I know. I said we've covered several cases from this area at this point. It's very surprising because it's so small. And it's like one of the safest states in the country. And there's so many tragic things that not only happen there, but that nobody knows about.
Is this one an older case too?
It's older. It's from 1980.
Well, and so I think our other ones were too. Ish.
No, the one with the two little girls. That was
90s.
Oh, it was 90s. Okay. Well, okay. So maybe it's safe now.
Right.
I don't know. But this is a little bit off of our beaten path that we do on our normal feed. It kind of gives me, like, if you listen over on Patreon, it's sort of Betty Williams-esque that I covered back in June, just with like so much mental illness going on.
Okay.
It's not like that case. It's just very heavily influenced by like mental illness.
Got it.
It was suggested by our listener, Sue.
Okay. Hello, Sue.
Hello, Sue. And this is the murder of Bernadette Lesage and also the story of Louis Hines.
Okay.
Okay. So Bernadette Angela Lesage was born on December 18th of 1958. This makes her a Sagittarius. Okay. I'm married to a Sag.
Ah.
And they are some kind of something, I'll tell you. They're very thoughtful, very independent, adventurous people. Mm-hmm. Bernadette's parents were Ernest and Albertine Lesage, and Bernadette was the youngest of 10 children.
Whoa. Okay.
It's a lot of kids. Mm-hmm. Her family was very devout Catholic.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Bernadette grew up in a small suburb of Burlington, Vermont called Middlebury, and she went by the nickname Bernie.
Emery has an aunt named Bernadette called Bernie.
You know what? Everybody needs an aunt named Bernie.
Mm-hmm.
Aunt Bernie. That is awesome.
Yeah. She's pretty cool people too.
Dang it. Wish my name was Bernie.
Although all of Emery's mom's siblings are pretty awesome.
So. And she has a lot of them, doesn't she?
11.
Mm-hmm.
There's 11 of them.
Like our Bernie here.
Yes.
1 of 10.
Yeah.
So Bernadette was a very sweet and fun person. She was described as innocent and loving. She graduated from Rice Memorial High School in South Burlington, and she had a lot of friends. And she was a very active member of the St. Francis Xavier Church.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
So I think that's very pretty.
It is pretty, but it's
Xavier. Like, I want to get married at St. Francis Xavier. I messed it up even.
I do feel like I went to a Catholic school and it was St. Barnabas, but St. Francis always has something else. I feel like St. Francis of Assisi, St. Francis, like, I don't know why.
Interesting. I bet there's somebody who does know.
Mm-hmm.
So this is really all we know, sadly, about Bernadette's past. Okay. So like information about her young life was just really never publicized. Mm-hmm. At the time that our case takes place in 1980, Bernadette was 21 years old. She had recently moved to downtown Burlington on her own and gotten a place, and she was working at the Vermont Student Assistance Corporation as a secretary. So this company assists students of all ages to save, plan, and pay for college or vocational and career training.
Do we all have places like that?
I don't know, but this place is still in existence today. So if you're up there in Vermont, kids, and you have resources and you or need resources in this type of thing, you can call the Vermont Student Assistance Corporation.
That's very cool.
Very cool. On Thursday, July 17th of 1980, Bernadette was working her normal job that day, and she took a lunch break with her friend, Debbie. I don't know if Debbie worked with her or if she met Debbie, but they were having lunch together that day. It was a beautiful summer afternoon, and Bernadette was wearing a lovely white dress, and she had the cutest little bob haircut ever. I mean, it is cute. She and her friend Debbie met and laid out a blanket and sat down on the lawn of the Unitarian Church in Burlington's City Hall Park to eat the lunches that they had packed for themselves that day. Like, hello, wholesome.
Yeah, no kidding.
So stinking cute. All of a sudden, people saw a young black man quickly approaching the two women from behind with a large stick or rod of some sort. This man, who seemed to have come out of nowhere, began beating Bernadette with this object, repeatedly hitting her over and over while she laid on the ground screaming for help.
Oh my goodness.
Bernadette's friend Debbie ran away, also screaming for help. A lot of witnesses saw this taking place. So people who were in the park, people who were walking by, or nearby businesses, like heard the screaming and came out. Several 911 calls came in. Some of the men that were there gathered together and approached this man to get him to stop, and they ordered him to drop his weapon, which he calmly did and just stood there silently.
How strange.
So strange. The police were there within minutes, and they arrested this man, and he surrendered peacefully, never saying a word.
Okay.
Bernadette was taken to the Medical Hospital of Vermont, where she was considered to be in extremely critical condition and very unstable. Bernadette had suffered multiple blunt force injuries to her head, face, neck, and upper body, as well as defensive wounds to her arms and legs, and she had several broken ribs. She had been beaten with a long metal pipe and had severe skull fractures and bleeding and swelling to her brain. She was placed on life support, and ultimately it was determined that she had no brain activity. So the following day, her family had to make the impossible decision to remove their 21-year-old baby from the machines, and she did pass away.
Oh, gosh, what an awful decision to have to make.
Oh, I can't imagine. Also, what's really sad is that Bernadette's older sister had just died 6 months before from kidney failure. So this family had suffered the loss of 2 of their children in a 6-month period.
Oh, no.
Which is terribly tragic. So what the heck happened? Who is this man?
Yeah.
Who attacked Bernadette in the middle of the day in front of dozens of people and beat her to death?
Mm-hmm. And so why did he pick her? Like, there was somebody else sitting right next to her, too.
Right. Yeah, we're going to get there.
Yeah.
This man was 23-year-old Louis C. Hines Jr. He was fully cooperative with police. What was shocking to them is that Louis and Bernadette were absolute strangers.
Mm.
He had never seen her before that day, had no idea who she was, didn't know her name, didn't know anything about her. He fully admitted to approaching her and beating her to death and took full responsibility for her murder right off the bat. Like, yeah, I did it. It was me.
Mm-hmm.
He gave a full confession to the police. So let's talk about Louis and how he became a murderer.
Yeah.
So I know we don't normally talk about our killers because we don't. It's gross.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what we do, but it's very, very important in this case that y'all know what I know about Louis. So this is where we kind of go off our beaten path here on this normal feed. Louis was a 23-year-old African-American man who grew up in a predominantly white state at that time. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it is now, but back in the 1980s it was. He was originally from Mississippi. His father was in the Army, and so the family moved around a lot. When Louis was very young, the family moved to the area of Burlington, Vermont, and shortly after that, his father was actually killed in the Vietnam War.
Oh, wow.
So as you can imagine, this put immense stress on his family.
Mm-hmm.
In 1977, when Louis was 21 years old, he suffered from what he referred to as a nervous breakdown. He was hospitalized in Waterbury, Vermont, and given medication. He was diagnosed as manic depressive and kept inpatient for a couple of weeks and then released. In 1978, the following year, Louis was arrested for breaking and entering. At that time, he was found to be insane, I'm quoting that, and incompetent to stand trial. So he was hospitalized again in Waterbury and was given an additional diagnosis of schizophrenia.
Oh, wow.
At this point, he was put on antipsychotic medication and was hospitalized for 2 months. Okay. During this hospital stay, it has been reported that Louis began having a sexual relationship with his male counselor, which is extremely predatory on the counselor's behalf. And I did read that he was later fired because Louis was not the only person. Okay.
Well, good, because that's inappropriate.
100%. And extremely traumatic when you're going through this mental health crisis. And it was also Louis's first homosexual experience.
Oh, okay.
So once he was released from this hospitalization, Louis attempted to rent an apartment in Burlington. However, his continued marijuana use and loud parties got him kicked out of this apartment just a few months after he moved in. And this is when Louis became unhoused and was living on the streets.
Okay.
He lived in a makeshift plastic tent in a swamp in Burlington. He wasn't able to obtain his medication for his depression and schizophrenia, so he smoked a lot of pot and also began using LSD to cope with his issues. About a month before Bernadette's murder, Louis had become suicidal. He attempted to overdose himself on pills, and he also attempted to cut his wrists with razor blades. Obviously, neither one of these attempts were successful, and this led to even more emotional stress and turmoil. Louis had started to become extremely paranoid, especially when it came to women.
Okay.
So he believed that women that he just passed on the street were judging him or talking bad about him, or that they had planned to harm him or like sabotage his well-being in some way.
Mm.
So he was very hyper aware of strangers around him and thought that they were looking at him, and he would imagine that they were all conspiring together against him somehow. He's also diagnosed schizophrenia and manic depressive. He's unmedicated at this point. He's self-medicating with street drugs and marijuana, making him more paranoid and less lucid.
Feel so bad for this guy.
I know. We can feel bad for Lewis's trauma.
Yeah.
We're not going to feel bad for his actions. We're going to feel bad for his trauma.
Yeah.
Lewis's mother saw this mental health decline. So he obviously was pulling back from his family, but she would still see him every once in a while. And she noticed that he was becoming very paranoid and was just unhinged.
Mm-hmm.
And she made several attempts to try to get Lewis some help. Every time that she was told that if he was not a physical danger to himself or someone else, that there was nothing that they could do unless he voluntarily wanted treatment.
Right. Gosh, that Baker Act.
Yeah. Well,
nope.
Yeah, we just talked about in like the last case that we did, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Or a few cases before. Yeah. So by July of 1980, Lewis's paranoia about women that he would pass on the street became so bad that he decided that he needed to kill them.
Mm-hmm.
He said that he felt it was the only way to keep himself safe from these people who were trying to conspire against him. He made a plan to begin beating any woman that he felt was conspiring against him. He went to a local dump and found a lead pipe and practiced swinging it and hitting it against trees. On July 16th, so this is the day before Bernadette's murder, he had actually gone to the park with the pipe. But the only woman that he saw there that day was a pregnant lady, and he did not feel threatened by her. So he decided to leave and went back the next day.
Jeez.
So this is where Lewis was mentally on July 17th of 1980 when he attacked Bernadette from behind and beat her.
Mm-hmm.
He said that he believed that Bernadette and her friend were talking about him and planning to harm him, which obviously is completely ridiculous because they didn't even see Lewis. He approached them from behind.
Right.
So, but it just, even if they were talking about him, it doesn't excuse, like, you can't attack somebody in this way for that. Yeah. But it does go to show you how actually delusional that he was. He didn't even see their faces, most likely.
Right. Yeah.
He, So when Lewis was arrested, the police found 2 handwritten notes on him. One of them detailed his hatred of homosexuals, and the other talked about his disdain and fear for women.
Ugh.
They've never been released, so I was not able to read them, but the way that they were described is that they were like hate ramblings, essentially. Not necessarily coherent.
Right.
Lewis was charged with first-degree murder, but his mental stability was immediately called into question, and he was taken to the Vermont State Hospital in Waterbury, which is where he had actually been before.
Okay.
So Bernadette, sweet Bernadette, 21-year-old baby girl, was an organ donor. Since her older sister had recently passed away of kidney failure, Bernadette, in what was really kind of a eerie premonition, had told her parents not long before her death that if something ever happened to her, she wanted her kidneys to be donated so that someone like her sister could be saved.
Wow.
So her parents did allow her kidneys to be donated. They held a memorial service for her at the church where she attended, and the community rallied around her family and loved ones. Lewis underwent extensive psychiatric evaluations, and his mental health was in very bad shape. This is not surprising. It was again confirmed that he did suffer from manic depression and schizophrenia, and that he did require extensive therapy and antipsychotic medication in order to remain stable and fit for society, neither of which he had been receiving. It was said that he was a walking time bomb.
I know. That's what it sounds like.
Yes. Because of this, it was determined that Lewis had been insane at the time of Bernadette's murder, and that he was also not fit to stand trial. So Louis was sentenced to remain in the Vermont State Hospital to undergo treatment and remain removed from society.
Okay.
So this is in 1980. Louis remained in the mental health treatment facility and cooperated with all that was required of him. He began taking his medication as prescribed and undergoing counseling and therapy. His depression subsided and his paranoia was under control. As the years went on, he became a model patient and was more healthy than anyone ever expected for him to be based on the state that he was arrested in. Wow. He spoke publicly about what he had done and took full responsibility for it, but definitely recognized that it was his lack of mental health assistance that led him to that point. He later said that he had been suffering so much that some part of him may have hoped that if he murdered women, he would be given the death penalty. And since he wasn't able to complete suicide on his own, this would be his way out of his pain. He didn't know, like consciously know that at the time, but like looking back, he's like, that might have been what I was doing. I will say that in the interviews that I read that he gave, although he does take responsibility, he's not super remorseful.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's more like, well, it just is what it is. Like, this is what led me to this point, and this is what happened. But journalism is journalism. Maybe it wasn't conveyed. Maybe he was sorry, and it just, you know what I mean? But like, I didn't love the way he said it. Like, I kind of wanted him to be like, I really messed up here. And it was more just like, well, I mean, you know, nothing I can do about it now.
Yeah, no, I agree with you that the way it was worded is not the best.
Yeah, I don't love it. Mm-hmm. Bernadette's family actually spoke up over the years with immense compassion for Louis's mental illness and the lack of help that he had been given over the years that led to the murder of Bernadette. Her sister actually said that if there was any benefit from Bernadette's death, it was knowing that Louis finally got the help and treatment he needed and that his life was saved. So she's essentially saying that Louis's success in treatment is like Bernadette's legacy.
I don't know that I agree with that.
Yeah, it's not. You know what I loved about it, though, is the compassion.
Well, like, yes.
I would not be there.
No.
I would feel bad for Louis's trauma, like I just said, but like, and I get what she's saying. Like, if she had to die, at least he has gotten the help that he needed and won't go on to harm more people. Maybe
agree.
That's a way to say it.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a rough one.
Yeah, because that doesn't need to be her legacy. Like she shouldn't have died to begin with. So
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so here's when we get into a little bit more controversy.
Uh-oh.
After years of treatment, Louis began asking the courts if he could be released from the facility and allowed back into society. Repeatedly, mostly because the public and Bernadette's family were freaking mad about this.
Right. Mm-hmm.
His requests were denied. So denied once in 1995, again in 1999, and then again in 2004. During all three of these pleas for his release, Louis's doctors, therapists, and counselors testified that he was sane and no longer a danger to himself or the general public. Mm-hmm. So they vouched for him and said he can go.
Right.
Despite being denied release, Louis was given privileges at the facility that the other patients were not. So he was allowed to fish in the pond behind the hospital grounds unsupervised. He was given a leave 2 days a week where he could ride his bike uptown to go to the bank, buy cigarettes, lottery tickets, and eat at a Chinese restaurant. Louis earned money by working in the kitchen and at the hospital's cantina, and he even won $1,500 once from a lottery ticket and was allowed to keep the winnings.
What?
So this is all while he is undergoing psychiatric treatment. However, his doctors, counselors, and therapists say he doesn't need to be inpatient anymore. So that's why they gave him these privileges.
I mean, I understand that.
People can get well.
Yes. Okay. You're right.
Okay, but
Okay.
But there's still controversy. So,
right. I'm just saying, like, he brutally murdered somebody. And I understand that it was because of mental illness, and so he can get better. I just have, I don't know, I have a hard time.
Does he still need to be accountable? That's the controversy. So advocates caught wind of Lewis's success story and began fighting for his release, even offering him a place to stay. If you let him go, he can stay with me. I'll supervise him. I'll make sure he stays out of trouble. Eventually, the Vermont Protection and Advocacy got involved. So this is a nonprofit that advocates for the rights of the mentally ill. In 2005, after spending 25 years in the Vermont State Hospital, Lewis was released from the mental health facility. By that time, he had been the longest resident of the hospital.
Oh, wow.
He was ordered to live at a place called Chrysalis House in Waterbury, which is a transitional home where there are only 2 patients and they're overseen by 2 trained staff members 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There are actually several of these locations of Chrysalis House in the New England area. So it is a transition. It's like a chain transitional home, if that makes any sense at all.
I mean, like, so strange to me.
I know. So Lewis was permitted to get a job, and he was ordered to continue taking his psychiatric medication and continue outpatient treatment. He was given very strict guidelines of what he could and could not do. And if those were violated even once, he would be sent back to the treatment facility or to jail.
Okay.
Louis Hines is currently 67 years old and continues to live in Waterbury, Vermont. He now goes by the name Lou. Bernadette's family has never spoken publicly about their feelings on Lewis's release.
Right. I was going to say, how are they feeling about this?
I think they kind of went silent, and they weren't before. They were kind of like showing compassion to him before, and then now they're not. But it's been a lot of years too. So like how many of them are still living? We don't know.
Well, that's true.
Bernadette's friend Debbie is, I think, still living in Vermont. She is the one that was on the lawn with her that day. She said that she does suffer from like survivor's guilt and PTSD. So controversy. Lewis never went on trial for Bernadette's murder.
Right.
So he confessed, but he was never actually tried or convicted because it was determined that he wasn't competent to do so.
And so is it a thing that you don't ever become competent to? You know, like, so now he's doing well. Shouldn't he go on trial for the murder?
Literally my next sentence. So now that he is competent, should he be tried? And
so I say yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, okay. So let's say he is tried and convicted. What should his sentence be? He spent 25 years in a mental health facility as a prisoner. So what would you sentence him?
Well, and so, yeah. No, because when you said that, I was like, well, he probably would have gotten like 25 years to life or something if he was convicted. So would he have just been like, okay, convicted, time served, gone anyway? But would he then be on parole then where you're being watched? And is he being watched anyway?
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. So I don't know. But I don't know. There's just something in me that like needs a conviction for her murder. Like there needs to be justice for her murder, even though there was ish. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's very controversial. It's real sticky. I've had a hard time with it as well. I'm like, of course, I'm happy that he has gotten the mental health treatment that he needed. And in that respect, they got it right. Because they could have just thrown him in jail and let him suffer with his mental illness and done nothing to make him a, successful member of society. They could have done that. They did not do that. They got it right by getting him help.
Yes, 100%.
But yeah, it's like, well, okay, but how much do we hold society responsible for not helping him before, and how much do we hold him responsible for this heinous, brutal murder?
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
we're not, I mean, like, people are going to be one side or the other, in the middle, and all over the place. So you guys will have to write in and tell me. I had a hard time with it. I have a really hard time with people who suffer from mental illness and don't get the help that they need. And I think it is so tragic that something like a murder has to happen.
Right. No,
to
agree.
be like, oh gosh, our bad. You know, like, that's it's heartbreaking to me. I hate it. She did not need to die. This man didn't need to suffer the rest of his life. You know, like, he was suffering so badly before, but it's also his responsibility.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
It's hard. It's really hard. Like,
this might be like the biggest, like, divide that we have. I mean, because you're one side or the other, I feel like. Well, no, maybe you're not. Maybe you're stuck in the middle like us. Like, what the heck?
I think I'm in the middle. I don't know. I think it's a real, you know, what's interesting too, and I thought about this a lot when I was researching this case, is that if it would have, so 2023, if it happened now, what would be done differently?
Well, I feel like his mental illness would have been addressed a little bit more seriously.
Sure.
Before he killed.
But let's say he's an unhoused person and not on anybody's radar and nobody knows where he is. And this does happen. This event happens and he does murder somebody due to this paranoia or whatever. What would they do now? Like, what would that look like? Because it would look different. I would hope it would look different. I think it would look different. And it's just interesting to think about, like, 1980, 2023, like, you know, it's a 43-year difference. How far have we come? ...
This is a conundrum.
It is, yeah. So anyway, great case.
Yes.
Thank you, Sue, for bringing this to our attention. Certainly nothing that I have ever heard of. Would never have found this. Very interesting to research.
Yeah.
I read so many old newspaper articles with beautiful pictures of Bernadette and her family, and it was a ride.
Gosh. No kidding. And wait, did you say Sue lives there? Like, in the Burlington area?
I don't think she lives in the Burlington area. Okay. I think she lives in Vermont. I think maybe she said she had lived in the Burlington area at some point, but no longer did.
Okay.
Either way, she's up there.
Yeah. Well, and this is why you would know about the case. Yeah.
Correct.
Gosh, man. That needs to be like precedent, you know, like in the courts. Like, what do we do with something like this?
Yeah.
Like,
maybe there is. I don't know. We could call it the Bernie something. The Bernie Act. Like the Baker's Act, the Bernie Act.
Bernie Act.
Yeah.
I'm literally just like staring into space thinking about all of the aspects of this and where you would go.
Yeah.
And I don't have an answer.
Yeah. But so he is out. He is living in society-ish. And, you know, doing well from everything I read.
I'm glad that,
like, on Facebook or anything like that. I can tell you that. So,
right. Yeah. Oh gosh, forget it. Down a hole there.
Yeah. I did. I went. Come on.
Well, I'm saying, like, that could be a hole for him.
Oh, yes, true.
Social media. Oh,
right.
I'm glad that he has not gone on to murder. I'm glad that he got the help that he needed. Again, I should say, murder again. I'm glad that he got the help that he needed. I'm sad for Bernie. I'm sad for Bernie's family.
Yes.
And I really don't know what else there is to say about that, because
I know. You guys are going to have to let us know.
Yeah.
What you think. Was justice served?
Yeah. Yeah. Truly let us know. Your true thoughts, because we're in the middle, so we're not going to, like, argue with you one way or the other. Right. Unless you say something dumb. But well, you know what I mean, because some people, like,
I do
say something and we're like, there was no reason to say that.
Oh yeah. I send irrelevant screenshots, not all the time. We don't get them a lot, We don't get them a lot.
No, not at all.
There are definitely times where I'm like, oh, buddy. And I'll say, can I delete this? Can I like, we're all, can I just delete this? Anyway, but we don't get those a lot.
No.
99.9% of the time, everything that you guys opinion is so valid and intelligent and well written, and we appreciate them so much. So
yes, 100%.
So do that. You
do that.
You 99.9%. Let us know.
This is random, but last night I was trying to respond to something on YouTube, which wasn't bad. What I was responding to was not bad, but I was just trying to like gather my thoughts so that I could respond professionally and appropriately and whatever.
Okay.
And my middleist. Is there a middleist?
There is now.
Came down and like, I'm staring into space with my phone, like deep in thought. He's like, what's the matter? I'm like, I'm just trying to figure out how to respond to this person who commented on YouTube. And he was like, well, if it's a troll, you send them my way. And blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, Beth, send the trolls Xavier's way. He's got it.
Yes.
I don't even want to know what he'll say.
Good.
I have to delete his comments.
Did we just find a new social media marketing
I know,
person, right? Yeah.
I was like, you ignore them, Mom, because they just are jealous.
Yeah. Jealous. Oh, Lord. Sweet boy.
Anyway, it's funny.
So we don't have trolls.
No,
we're
we
very
don't.
lucky.
We don't.
We've got you, sister.
Yes. Anyways. Okay. So thank you so much for diving into that.
You're welcome.
Very interesting, hard to listen to at times. But extremely interesting. And like I said, I feel like might be like one of the most divided kind of, what do you do? We don't know. We don't even know because we want to feel bad for him, not for his actions, but we want to feel bad for what happened to him in his life. We feel bad for Bernie.
Oh gosh, yes.
What happens in the middle?
Literally one of them, like, I mean, all of our victims are like innocent victims, but like, wow, this is random.
Truly like random, just sitting there enjoying your lunch, has never had a problem with anyone. And a guy who's
just their life.
Yeah. That thinks they're talking about him, which they're probably just talking about what a lovely day it was and how they loved their lunch.
Yeah.
Like, anyways. So thanks for diving into that one. Thank you, Stu, for bringing it to our attention. Because for sure, mental illness needs a lot more attention. And
yes, it does.
It's getting more, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. So let's get there. And let us know what you think on social media. Come reach out, tell us your thoughts, and come check us out over on Patreon. Again, I have no idea when this is dropping like I normally do, so can't even tell you what's been happening.
But we've got 21st.
a lot. We have a lot over there. We're about to come up on Survivor September.
That's right. Man. Oh, me, oh, man.
Yeah.
Serial Killer September and Survivor September. Their survivors are going to be only over on the Patreon, but like, this is y'all's favorite month. We'll never get it.
Yep. That's what I was going to say. If you listen to our serial killers, we do survivors over on Patreon. So if you've not joined, maybe this is the time. Go and listen. Go pay your $3 for the month and listen to all of the stuff that's over there. Binge it all. So anyway, join us over there. Come find us on social media. And just always remember, the world is scary. People suck. Hide in your closets.